Hey everybody. Okay, today I am going to be doing a bit of a keyword research speed run. My client has requested some keyword research from me based on a couple topics, and I wanted to show you what my process looks like and also kind of test myself, see how quickly we could find some keyword opportunities. So the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. Okay, so let's start the clock now. This is the request that came through from my client. So usually with my clients, I'll come to them with a big list of keywords that I think are what I want to put forward, where I want to build ideas off of. But sometimes in the writing process, maybe we'll come up with a different content idea just off the top of our heads, or the client will have a specific topic that they want to talk about. So this client has made this request. I like your idea of how to be a better listener. That was my idea for one topic, especially including how it affects your work and your personal life. And the other idea is the concept of managing up. So what I'm going to do here is start with the how to be a better listener. That was an idea that I came up with while I was writing an article. And just for reference, this client, they are focused on people in their late teens to mid 20s who are entering the workforce, living on their own for the first time and trying to pick up skills. So what I'm going to do first is log into Ahrefs, my handy dandy keyword candy tool, and I am going to go into the keyword explorer here. Now I do pay for this tool because SEO is my job. But when I get in here, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm set to the United States. That is where my client is based. And I'm going to start coming up with ideas about how to be a better listener. So when I'm doing these, what I'm basically doing is putting myself in the shoes of the target audience. So I'm thinking way, way back to when I used to be in my late teens or early 20s. What kind of stuff might I be Googling to end up on a page that talks about this topic? So obviously the big one is how to be a better listener, but let's also put in listening skills, bad listening, bad listener, listening versus hearing, conversation skills, maybe. Why won't he listen? Why won't she listen? How to get people to listen to you. Just kind of spitballing here. I mean, some of these are really not going to go. I'm just trying to give the tool enough information about the general thing that I'm talking about to get something out of it. So let's just stop there. Let's go ahead and enter these keywords here. Okay, so what it does, the first thing it does is it spits back the exact terms that I put in. So out of the 7 keywords I put in, all of them have some volume. And not surprisingly, the top 2 are a lot of volume, 4.9 thousand searches per month or 1.5 thousand searches per month. But the rest of these, yeah, 700 per month and 17, that's kind of good. Conversation skills, that might be something that I want to go for because the keyword difficulty is lower. And so that means it would be a bit easier for me to go for. And that's still a decent volume. It's not huge, but it's good. The rest of these, maybe not so important because they lower. But we're not done here. We're not going to stop there. We're going to take a look at some of the recommendations. So we're going to go over to matching terms first. And this will show us any keywords that have some of the words that I used matching their search term. Now, this is going to be a lot. How many do we have here? 11,000, starting with the ones with the most volume. So what we're going to do is first, I want to get rid of some of these ones that are really, really competitive because my client has a decent domain authority, but they're not that strong. They're certainly not strong enough to get a 74 because these are going to be really big players. So we want to get rid of these really, really high keyword difficulties. So we do this, we go over here. And first, we're going to get rid of the high ones. So let's get rid of anything, let's just say over 35. We'll make 35 the maximum keyword difficulty, and that's going to narrow down our search results. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is hearing versus listening is actually maybe our best opportunity because it has 1.1 thousand searches per month, a pretty low keyword difficulty. But we also have some other options here. So conversation skills is another one. What I'm not seeing is anything really that's going to be acceptable for, how to be a better listener, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. It just means that hearing versus listening, I mean, maybe we want to look into this as our best keyword opportunities. So let's go ahead and click on that keyword and just take a deeper look at what is going on with this keyword. So we do see, yep, 11, very, kind of low end. And let's just look at the number one result. So this is from a university that makes sense that they would have good results because an edu is really, really helpful for SEO. That means it's just kind of website that Google likes to trust because it means you're an educational institution. So this is talking about the definition between hearing versus listening and active listening, passive listening. So this is probably, well, look here. Then they get into how to be an active listener and the foundations of effective communication. So they've got quite a lot of information here. And some of this stuff is what I would want to cover in my article as well. So I just like to look at the angle that some of these people are taking. And there's even more. So that's the one we just looked at. Let's have a look at some of these other ones. So benefits of listening. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty short article. Now, I don't know anything about this URL, but for some reason this is ranking second. And when I look at this, this to me is not a great piece of content. It does have some information. It's probably well written, but it's pretty short. It doesn't really go into some of the stuff that I want to talk about. Let's have a look at maybe one more. Wow, so there's a Medium article on here. That's always interesting. Medium, can be difficult to rank for sometimes, but let's have a look. Hearing versus listening, 3 steps to becoming a better listener. See, this is exactly the kind of take that I would want to put on my article. I'm obviously not going to copy this exact format, but this is the kind of content that I was thinking in my head about writing because the people who are reading my content are wanting to become better listeners. So I'm actually going to propose something very similar to this to my client. I'm going to come back to them and I'm going to say, hey, I actually noticed that hearing versus listening is probably our best bet in terms of our focus keyword. It's got 1.1 thousand searches per month. It's pretty relatively easy difficulty, and it's going to allow us to talk about other parts of being a good listener, how to improve your listening skills, active listening, and all of that. So I'm going to actually go ahead and just go back to my keyword explorer and refine my search a little bit just to have those keywords that I just kind of stumbled upon while I was looking at options and have a look and see, is there anything around active listening and passive listening that maybe I want to cover in my article? So active listening has, look at that, 81 difficulty and 35,000 volume. But as I'm doing this, what do I discover? But the word passive listening has more than hearing versus listening searches per month and a lower keyword density. So suddenly I'm like, wait a minute, now I want to write about passive listening. I don't want to write about hearing versus listening. That'll be a section in my article. But passive listening has more volume, less difficulty, and I think it could be a really good topic. So let's have a look and see who is ranking for this keyword. Of course, it's you, Lifehack. It's always you. Okay, so once again, I'm going to have a look, see here. Now look at this. Published on July 30th. It's almost a year old. That's okay. And we're never going to outrank Lifehack because they are so good at content, or at least they're so good at ranking their content. So yes, they have active listening versus passive listening as their main keyword here. Huge difference between active and passive, how to improve your listening skills. Once again, and now this is the length of article that I'm probably going to write. So once again, we have active listening versus passive listening. I just want to see passive listening. Yeah. Active listening definition. So this is what happens when you go into Ahrefs is things kind of unfold in front of you and you start to see more and more keywords that you can include. So we have passive listening here, passive listening definition. We have some active listening definition. Let's just have a look at that one. Active listener. There's another one. And we can look at more of these if we want to as well. Huffington Post. So here's the one thing to be aware of is that, these URLs here of the people who are ranking at the top, these are pretty decent URLs, except for some of these. That one doesn't seem to be as good, but let's have a look at it. So these people have done a nice job. Yeah, again, just talking about listening skills. Okay, active listening definition is super hard. We're not going to go for that. And so is, yeah, active listener, super hard. So the one that we have that is best for us is going to be passive listening. And so I'm going to make that my main keyword. So I'm going to go back here and just make some notes under this one. That primary keyword is going to be passive listening. And the secondary keywords that I found are going to be passive listening definition. And I think I also found hearing versus listening. And so that's pretty good. So I have one focus keyword, which is going to be passive listening. And that means that this one is going to feature very prominently in my headline. It's going to be the one that I use most often. It's going to be the thrust of the article. But these will probably be subheadings as well. So I can easily see how this will fit in, probably maybe the very beginning of the article, right after the introduction. And hearing versus listening will probably come in a little bit later, just to kind of explain the difference there. And then the rest of the article, I'm just going to try and include as much valuable information for their specific audience as I can. And when we do all of those things and we work on getting backlinks and we make sure that the website's working well, we will probably see this one start ranking in a few months, which is going to be another, potential few hundred or thousand visitors every month to my client, depending on how well we do. It's going to take time, but we'll get there. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I think that's pretty good. I really like this one. I think we found some really good opportunities. Hopefully you saw that it doesn't take forever to do this kind of thing, but the research really pays off, because if I had just started writing this without looking at keywords, I wouldn't really have known to use passive listening. I wouldn't have thought of using hearing versus listening. It would have been totally accidental. But now I can walk into this piece knowing these are the words that I need to center my article around, because it's the one that people are searching for. How can I then turn that into a really valuable article for the audience? All right, thanks everybody. And if you want to see more of this kind of thing, please do come visit me over at inkwellcontent.com. You can sign up for my mailing list, follow me on YouTube. You can meet up with me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Twitter. You can find me anywhere you choose. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a good day.